Here we are once again for the latest installment in the GameONN collection. We are already on episode 32, and of course, we've got another packed episode for the viewers at home. Firstly, we start a mini-series of interviews with female fighters from Steel City MMA. This week we feature Emma Horner, who is scheduled for her potential MMA title fight at Big John's MMA come March. We invite her in to check on her mindset just 2 months out from the big night. We also take a look at the #1 ranked robotics team in the entire world, Team iSmack. They have been getting ready right here in the Sault at FH Clerc, so we stop by to talk to them, as well as Team Lone Wolf, to see how these robots work. Let's get started with another edition of Game On. Kawhi Leonard is enjoying the highest scoring season of his career and finds himself back starting in the NBA All-Star game. Averaging 27.9 points and 7.9 rebounds over the first 36 games of his season, Kawhi comes in second in voting behind All-Star captain Giannis Antetokounmpo. Kawhi has also started in the All-Star game back-to-back seasons in 2016 and 2017 while he was still a member of the San Antonio Spurs. But the Raptors can't look too far ahead, as tonight they roll into Houston to take on James Harden and the Rockets at 8. Canada tennis fans will have their eyes glued to the television for the Oracle Challenger quarterfinal. For the first time ever, Eugenie Bouchard and Bianca Andreescu, both Canadian, will face off head-to-head. To get to this point in the tournament, the 6th-seeded Andreescu took out number 9-seeded Maria Boskova of the Czech Republic in straight sets. The 3rd-seeded Bouchard would also win her match in straight sets, beating number 16th-ranked Jill Teichmann of Switzerland. Andreescu, who's 18, takes on the 24-year-old Bouchard at 3:35 p.m. today. Tiger Woods has gotten off to a solid start to the 2019 PGA campaign. Announced earlier that Woods would make his season debut at Torrey Pines this weekend, the 43-year-old begins his search for his first victory since last year's Tour Championship. A 12-foot birdie putt on the 18th would conclude his first round of 70, good for 2 under. He will have a ways to go, though, as the leader after day 1 is John Ram, who managed a 10 under 62 on the day, with Justin Rose and Doug Ghim just 1 shot back of that. Welcome back to Game On, where I'm joined now by Emma Horner, who's got a fight coming up not too far off, March 30th at Kuwaitan Casinos. Emma, thank you so much for joining me today.
No problem.
So, your perception around the Sioux and I guess in the mixed martial arts community has kind of changed a lot over the last few months from when you first started to now. You've been getting media coverage throughout the city. How do you feel that your perception has changed throughout your fighting?
My perception, like
how people have perceived you from the start, where you were training at Steel City and you were doing your thing, but there's been more eyes and more eyes on you as it's kind of progressed
I just
through.
had a few more opportunities. I had that fight against Big John's against a good opponent, and then got another win a couple weeks after. So it was just good for me. I got to travel around a bit, and
And speaking of those 2 fights so closely to each other, how do you go from one fight with so many eyes on it to another fight just a few weeks later?
It's just when you're a fighter, you got to be ready to fight, and if you're healthy, then there's no reason why you shouldn't be ready to fight. So,
what kind of prep goes into coming back to a fight that quickly after one? Is there anything like you have to superset some workings? Like how does that go?
You know what? No, there wasn't. It was just the same thing. Back to the gym, getting ready for a fight, getting ready. Like not a lot of just making adjustments from my last fight. Like there was a few little things, nothing huge though, and just going out and doing my thing. That's all it was. And I didn't know. I watched my opponent only had one other fight, my next opponent, and she seemed a little more well-rounded than the girl that I wrestled at Big John. So I didn't know. I started a little slow in the first round, I felt, because I was just feeling her out. I didn't know who she was going to be. And then I was like, okay, I see how this is going. And then I was like...
And when it comes to watching the film of somebody that's fought, is it normally what you expect after watching the film when you get into the cage with them? Or is it something different? They try to bring something that maybe changes what you've seen?
Pretty par for the course. I don't want to jinx it, but
right.
I feel like, they it's always a different feeling for sure, though, when you're in the fight. Absolutely. It's a bit of a different feeling, and it's always different from them on video with who they're fighting then, and it's a different fight with you. So.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to your background, when did you start combat sports? I know you have a jiu-jitsu background and a few different things sprinkled in there. What have you done, and what age did you start doing these?
Wrestling. I'm actually a wrestler, is what I started when I was 14. Mm-hmm. And I started into also powerlifting, a lot of strength training up until I was finished university. So I wrestled all through that time, did a few jiu-jitsu tournaments. I would train mixed martial arts during the summer and stuff.
Right.
And then I did strongman when I was finished university. And then was just looking for a fight. I tried to get a few boxing fights, kickboxing fights. It never worked out. I always fell through, and then I ended up just getting MMA fights. So. And
the photo that we just threw up was you. It looked like a strongman competition, lifting up one of those big logs. Can we actually get it again, Dan, if you don't mind? This one right here. I just wanted a little bit more context to the photo. Where are you? What's going on?
So that was at my strongman gym in Thunder Bay, and we were just doing a fundraiser for a guy who lost his daughter, actually. Oh. And so it was called Stronger Together, and it was the men had a all-around strongman competition, and the women just had a log press competition. So it was max log press, and I was the first woman that day in Thunder Bay to ever do clean and jerk the men's log, and then I did it with weights, so I got it for 170 pounds. But
oh my goodness.
I'm not that strong anymore.
Okay. She's being modest now. She can't just say how great she is for this whole interview. Okay. And we've got one more picture that I want to talk about too that's going to show up here as well. It's going to be the poster from the Big John's event. And I just want to know, when you saw that poster, it's you just feeding that girl. You're being used as almost, I guess, the main event kind of show to come out and see. How was that to see that big photo?
It's nice. I was like, wow.
That's me. Yeah, I don't know. I just thought that was kind of cool to think that, you've had 3 fights, I believe, right? 3 fights.
5.
5 now? I thought your record was 2-1, but I guess my sources are not very
3-1 and 1 no contest.
Okay, fair enough. But to see so early on that you're getting the recognition, going back to Big John's, and they want to use you to promote a fight, that's got to be a great feeling.
Yeah, no, it definitely is a great feeling.
Mm-hmm, for sure. So what does it take now? What's your schedule going to look like from now until March 30th? What are you going to be working on from here on out?
I'm actually getting together with my coach on Tuesday to go over specifics, what exactly we're going to be working on. Not 100% who my opponent's going to be, but it doesn't really matter. I'm still going to be focusing on the same types of things. Whenever I think about what I'm getting ready to do when I'm going to go to the gym every day, I just think I'm going to put pressure on people. All the pressure that I feel on me, I'm going to put it on my opponent. I'm going to put the pressure on. That's always my main focus. And you were saying just before we came on that it may be a title fight, it may not be. Can you give us a little bit of information on that? So I would be fighting for a title at 125. I am a flyweight. If they can't find me an opponent for 125 for the belts, then they'll just find me a killer bantamweight, so a 135-pound opponent, and we'll just do a fight at 130 if they can make the weight. For sure. And when it comes, either way, it'll be a good fight for me.
Absolutely.
Fight's a fight, so I'm excited either way.
And when it comes to somebody who is maybe wanting to get into mixed martial arts, what kind of advice would you give to them to kind of push them through the door and get started? I would say pick an area, pick kickboxing, pick jiu-jitsu. Right. Try it. I would say especially something grappling based. I'm a grappler, so it's biased. Right, of course. I would say pick something and train it and hone your craft. Words to live by. Hone your craft. Well, Emma, I want to thank you so much for coming in. I really do appreciate it. Wish you all the luck, and I hope to see that belt, if you get the fight for that title, once you win it. So more Game On right after this. Welcome to FH Clerg, home to Team iSmack, team to home Lone Wolf, where just inside these doors, they're going to be taking me through some of the things that they've been doing to, make them #1 ranked in the world for robotics. They're using the VEX setup. I know a little bit now, but I'm going to know a little bit more once we hop through these doors. So let's get to it. Involved with robotics? robotics first? What was kind of that boot to get you into it?
Initially, I started in grade 3 doing the first LEGO League, which is the smaller version of the FRC, which is another robotics competition competing with VEX. And I started that in grade 3. One of my friends' mothers, who's a teacher, introduced me to it, and I've loved robotics ever since.
And yourself?
I was introduced to robotics through the core intermediate program. So in grade 7, I was introduced to this competition, VRC, so it's the high school level of VEX Robotics. So that's a little different for a school. Usually they'll introduce the elementary school challenge, but they wanted to help get us ready for the high school challenge, so we were pushed right into it.
And how do you go from little old Sault Ste. Marie to the world? I'm not sure which one of you would be better at answering that.
So there's several regional competitions. So there's one here, the Northern Ontario one, which takes place in the Sault. And then there are also several other qualifiers throughout Ontario that we compete at. There are several allocated spots to Ontario. So if you receive one of those spots, you complete the provincial championship. And then there's a number of spots for each country and province for the world championship, which is in Louisville, Kentucky, with over 500 teams. So it's quite the experience.
500 teams? And what were some of the things you were showing me earlier with this guy? What are some of the different things that the robots can do?
Well, there's in this game, there's two major parts of it. There's the part involving the caps, which is manipulated by the lift, and the intake here, which allows it to flip either midair or on the ground. And then there are the balls, which is used for which the catapult manipulates and shoots the flags with it, and the intake brings it up.
And what makes the intermediate division, the high school division, different from the elementary school division?
Well, I've competed in both the VEX-IQ and the VRC. I feel that the VRC is much more competitive in the actual match, whereas the VEX-IQ elementary level is more competitive throughout the entire tournament, since each team is going back and forth to try and get the highest score possible throughout the entire tournament. And in VRC, it's very high pace in trying to just win your run.
And for the Worlds, it comes out the challenge for the next day, right after that last one. So what do you have to do for this upcoming tournament, and how are you guys preparing for that?
So each year at the end of the VEX Robotics World Championship, which is takes place in April, after the finals have finished, they do a big game reveal, or they reveal the game for the next season. So each year it gets revealed. So we are keeping the same challenge for our provincial championship, but we're just working on building another robot that'll be able to manipulate the objects faster and be even more high scoring.
Now, how long have you guys been participating, and what division are you actually competing in as a part of robotics?
Well, we've been competing for 3 years in robotics. In past years, we were with my brother Shale. So we were in the middle school division, which is for little older kids in grades 7 and 8. But this year, we're only in grade 6, so we're in the elementary division. We get along pretty well because we were friends since we were really little.
Yeah.
And with all this media attention you've gotten after being ranked #1, do you feel like stars yet?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It feels pretty great.
Yeah. And when you guys learned that you were #1 ranked, what were the feelings after that?
I can speak.
I was surprised that we beat China.
Because China has been ranked 1 in the world for a long time. My biggest challenge was probably finding a design to get over the blue ridges. Because if we get over them, we would be saving a lot of time.
And yourself?
Mine was finding probably a fast but stable design to navigate the field quickly.
And what are some things you guys really enjoy about doing, something that you know that you can take a sense of pride in when you're at those competitions?
Well, I love communicating with teams. Because when a team works together really well, everyone gets really excited.
I love the shock of teams when they see their ranking, because some teams aren't doing the best, but then once we go with them, sometimes they'll be higher, and then the excitement on their face is funny.
I'm sure the excitement on a #1 ranked team in the world's face is pretty funny too, right? So have you guys always been near the top, or you guys been at the bottom and worked your way up through these years?
Well, we made it to provincials every year, which is pretty great. So at our very first year, we didn't do it as good. So every year we've just been getting better and better.
He's pretty good. And his brother.
Welcome back to Game On, where we're continuing the trend of getting some of the scariest women in Sault Ste. Marie that are ready to knock some people senseless at Big John's MMA in Kuwait and casinos come March 30th. Willow Morton, thank you so much. And how excited are you to get that debut fight underway?
I'm really excited. I've been waiting for a little while to get a fight, so I'm pretty excited. I've been training a lot.
And if anybody's been watching ONNtv for the last couple of months, you'll know that we did the fashion gala that happened just before the turn of the new year. And Willow was featured there as Miss Teen North America, correct?
Yeah.
So, like I was asking you before, how does pageants translate to fighting? Like, you have to be worried. You don't want to get the pretty face knocked up, right?
I feel like fighting really gave me a lot of confidence when I started.
Absolutely.
So it kind of made me realize, wow, there's a lot of stuff I can do. So it kind of made me be like, oh, well, what if I did a pageant? And then I just did a pageant. I got second. So then I went internationally. And that gave me obviously a lot more confidence. And it was really cool because I got to use fighting as my talent there. So
that's pretty
it worked
cool
out
too.
pretty good.
I guess working in front of big crowds at pageants and big crowds in front of MMA, regardless, you've got lots of eyes on you, and it kind of worked the same way.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely helps because I'm really not scared of crowds anymore.
Right.
So it's pretty easy to talk in front of them, especially.
Right. Now, Emma said she was training since high school. How long have you been training for, and what have you been training in?
So I started training kickboxing and boxing and jiu-jitsu. I started that in grade 11, so I guess 2 years ago. And then that same year, Brent, he was the wrestling coach for Superior Heights, so he was like, okay, so you do MMA, so you're gonna wrestle too. So then that's how I started wrestling. That's how I started wrestling at Algoma as well. So I've been training MMA for around 2 years, a little bit over 2 years, and then wrestling just for a year.
And what would you say is something your strong suit? Let's not give away all of your secrets, but something that you're proud of when it comes to getting in that cage.
Definitely, probably my striking and getting out of things in jiu-jitsu, escaping things is pretty good for me. I've done a few jiu-jitsu competitions, and I just did ground games too, which I won. So I'm kind of pretty well-rounded, but I've been working hard at striking right now too.
And before we came on the interview, you told us the story of how you got involved in MMA is kind of funny. Can you fill us in about your relationship with Brent?
Yeah, so Brent was my English teacher in grade 11, and we kind of didn't get along. We used to kind of butt heads about things and have little arguments in class for fun. And so my volleyball team in grade 11 actually dared me to go to his MMA gym. And so I went, and just to bug him, and I was like, oh, I'll stay for a couple weeks and, just bug him. And then I ended up just falling in love with it, and I've just been there ever since and started going more and more and going to a bunch of seminars and competing and stuff, so.
And we've had Brent plenty of times on this show, so what would you say about Brent? We'll let him get a little mushy here and give him some props.
Brent's honestly a really good coach and just a really good all-around person. He obviously runs 2 businesses, and he has Wes, his kid, and his wife, and he's a teacher, so he's really busy, but he definitely puts a lot of time and effort into us as fighters and as a team. He really makes sure that we're always ready for our competitions, and he really pushes us as athletes to make sure we're doing our best.
And I asked Emma this as well, but for maybe somebody like you that was doing pageants, maybe the transition to MMA is not so apparent, something that's not really there. So what would you say to somebody that's really interested in it, but doesn't really see the fit in their life? Maybe they're making excuses as to why they don't want to do it, whatever it may be.
Honestly, I would say just push yourself. Just go to one class. Just try and go to one class, and you might just fall in love with it. The feeling you get after training, I love that feeling. So if you go to one, you might just kind of start to get addicted and want to go more and more.
Well, what would you say to somebody that says, you know what, I trained so hard all week, I don't want to go train today. There's nothing I'd want to do more than not go to the gym.
Honestly, I'd say still go, because I definitely have days like that. I have days where I'm laying in my bed and I'm like, wow, I really do not want to go train right now. But as soon as I go and as soon as I'm done, I'm like, wow, I'm so glad I went. I feel so much better now. So.
And we did just flash up a photo there. I believe it was a jiu-jitsu. Once again, Dan, can you bring that up for us one more time? What competition is this? Can you give us some context to this photo here?
So that was the Budo Open. That was in Sudbury. So I got a silver medal there.
Nice.
Yeah, that was just a jiu-jitsu competition. I think it was in August or July I did that. So doing those has definitely helped me feel more ready to be in the cage. Definitely when I did ground games in November, it was more like a cage scenario because it was one-on-one and everyone was watching, so we had like tickets and everything, walkout. So I feel like that simulation kind of helped me feel prepared for this.
And getting ready for your debut, what are some of the biggest challenges you've had to face and overcome on your way to March 30th?
Definitely feeling like like just exhausted sometimes from training. I have wrestling practice every day, and sometimes we have morning workouts during the morning, like at 7 a.m. I also work sometimes at 7 a.m. So after wrestling practice, I usually go to Steel City for at least 2 hours a night, and it gets pretty exhausting sometimes, but I really am trying to push myself and work on all the things that Brent's been telling me to work on.
Is that 2 hours a day, 7 days a week? Or do you get an off day?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Well, usually sometimes on Saturdays I get an off day, but my coach Willie, we've started like communicating about doing like some extra training on Saturdays and maybe in the morning some days after.
Right, trying to make those off days not too off.
Yeah.
Trying to do something still for sure.
Yeah.
So now with Kuwait Casinos and this March 30th Big John's event coming up, where can people get tickets if they want to come cheer on the Sioux girls?
So people can get tickets at Steel City MMA. You can get them just like from our front desk area.
Right.
So that would be supporting us. And then you can get them at the Kuwait box office as well. But I mean, if you're in the Sioux, you might as well come down to Steel City MMA and take a look around.
Steel City has moved too. Can you tell us the new location?
So we're at 721 Wellington Street East. We also have the Fun Farm downstairs. So upstairs is our whole gym. We have like a weight room now. We have, it's like a nicer space. We have heat now, so
right.
That's definitely a big thing. But there's a bunch of different rooms and we're expanding, so it's a really nice space.
Awesome. Willow, I want to thank you so much. I want to wish you the best of luck, like I said, knocking some people senseless, and I wish you the best in your debut. No problem. Now, more Game On after this. And cut. That's it. Wrap it up and let's get out of here. First off, a big thank you to Sarah Giroux and the entirety of the VEX teams from FH Clerk that I had the pleasure of speaking with, and I had an absolute blast and, well, nerded out seeing the robots. And another big thank you goes to Emma for coming in and Brent Freer of Steel City MMA for setting it all up. We will see you again the same time next week for the next episode of Game On. Have a good night.